thing about Wall that, we all know so well, the incredible misfortune that Klay Thompson had with back-to-back catastrophic injuries. The situation that happened with Wall, I feel like people don't recognize how crazy that was. He had a heel problem and he had surgery on it, and that was gonna he was gonna knock him out for months. I don't remember if it was knocked him out the whole season. I remember he had the surgery,
no, it was a whole season. He had surgery. He had on his left heel. I think it was because of a chronic Achilles injury he had. And then he had an infection. Well, I don't know if they found the infection until when he slipped at home a month later after having the season-ending surgery and ruptured his Achilles. So he had to have surgery for that. And then they found an infection from the previous heel surgery that he says almost led to his foot being amputated. And he said that he has bone spurs, like I think it was like in his foot and in his knee, that were so bad that like basically that's why he was out for basically as long as he was.
He has had so many injuries in his career. I know that at one point, because I did a story on him, he at one point had surgery on both knees on the same day. He was in the off season and he's like, I got to get both of these knees done. And he had both knees. Can you imagine recovering? By the way, he came back from that and had an all NBA season. But yeah, that's your point. Like, he had triple issues with his Achilles. He had a surgery basically to save himself from tearing his Achilles. And then he slipped at home a short time later and tore his Achilles. Now think about that. Think about that you're recovering from a surgery that you're doing to protect your Achilles, and then you tear your Achilles. And, I don't know what happened on that slip and fall, but obviously devastating. And then, as you mentioned, the third part about that was an infection that came into that. So really had a bad run that, and I think because those injuries happened like after the initial surgery, it was like, oh, he's out, and he's just still out. And I don't think, obviously, if you were a Wizards fan, you remember, but I'm not so sure people realize what, and then also, he takes the year basically sitting. I don't think people equate what he actually went through. Spears, you have a story coming out on Wednesday about the Clippers as well, about Ty Lue and Steve Ballmer. I wondered if you could tell us about that.
Yeah, found out that Steve Ballmer got like $80 billion. Spent time staying at a Best Western in Mexico, Missouri. They cost $79 a night on a heavy night.
Did he get free breakfast, Spearsy?
I'm sure he did.
I'm sure it was offered. Whether he ate it or not, I'm not sure. But Ty Lue and Mr. Ballmer, as Ty calls him, have grown really, really close. And in Ty's hometown of Mexico, Missouri, it's a small town of about 20,000 people. There's a lot of issues. There's poverty issues. There's lack of education. Kids aren't excited about going to school, going to college. And there's a big health issue because their hospital closed earlier this year. And for months you had to drive 45 minutes or more to get medical help. And now they've recently just had a little small healthcare place, but not a hospital.
Urgent care?
An urgent care, yes. And so Ty is trying to figure out what to do to help his hometown. And he is certainly the son of the place. He usually has a fireworks display every 4th of July. He's brought Kevin Garnett and Chauncey Billups out, and he's their favorite son. He has a street named after him, but he's always ultimately trying to help the place become a better place. He actually left Mexico, Missouri during his high school years to go move in with his uncle and kind of help settle his life. And he ended up playing at Windhorse's beloved University of Nebraska. And then so he, basically enlisted in Ballmer in trying to help his hometown. And they're still trying to figure out a way to make the place a better place. Maybe even finding a nonprofit that will be on the ground to start programs and do different health things and educational things and youth programs and whatnot. But it's an interesting story about how this coach and billionaire coach who's done a lot of things to help people, and I mean billionaire owner and a coach are bonding together to try to help this small town in Missouri and build a stronger friendship along the way.
It makes a lot of sense what you're saying about his hometown experience, because Brian Shaw told me this great story when I wrote about Ty Lue a year ago. He said Ty came from so little that he used to notice when they were on the Lakers together, Ty would always bring a 6-pack of ice cold Hawaiian Punch cans with him onto every plane trip. And he was like, but he would always bring a straw and drink them out of a straw. And so one day, Brian took the straw away, and Ty was like looking for a straw everywhere. He would never drink it out of the can. And Brian then realized when he was doing that, Ty was pissed off that he didn't have the straw. He said, "Where are my straws?" And he said, "I know why you drink out of a straw. It's because these cans of Hawaiian Punch are so cold, your teeth hurt when you're drinking. You got to drink out of a straw." And he's like, "When is the last time you went to see a dentist?" And Ty was like, "I've never gone to one." And Brian's like, "What are you talking about? Everybody goes to the dentist." And Ty was like, "No, my mom, we couldn't afford to go to a dentist when I was younger." And so Brian was like, as players now, we can go. It's like, the team will cover it as part of our medical. And so he said, Brian kind of pushed him to go to the dentist for the first time as a Laker. And he was
one
like,
of the things the dentist said was stop drinking 6 cans of
Hawaiian Punch.
Yeah. And so he basically was like, because Ty Lue does not drink alcohol. So like basically, I think he was basically saying like, this shows you his upbringing of where he came from, that it was just like little things like that. He didn't even he thought like going to the dentist was something for like only rich people could afford to do. You know what I mean? And then when you explain to me what's going on in Mexico, Missouri, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm taking it he made several visits to the dentist after that initial one.
Yeah, I think he had a lot. He might have had some. He might have had a few cavities. Who knows?
His teeth are spectacular now.
Yes.
When I think of Ty being mad, I always think of, I can't remember who it was now. I don't have that kind of memory. I think he was still an assistant. Do you remember? It might have been like Sam Cassell. I think it was Sam Cassell. Like something happened on the court. I'm just laughing and thinking about it. Because Ty has that face when he's angry, like where he scrunches up his forehead. I think it was Sam Cassell. And if it's not, I apologize. Something happened on the court that was like really interesting. And Cassell like grabbed Ty. Ty was like looking the other direction and he grabbed him. Ty was really angry. You could see him say, "Don't mess with my suit." He was so angry, like, "Don't touch my suit." Oh my gosh. The thing about Ty is he's so like, I covered him when he was coach of the Cavs. He's so quiet and unassuming when you see him on the sidelines. He looks like he is the absolute epitome of the duck on the water. And when he's speaking to the media on the record in front of the microphones, he's purposely droll, purposely vague, purposely not very expansive. But then when you peel the layer back, you understand how brilliant this guy is, and how much depth of understanding he has. He doesn't. You have no idea how remarkable Ty Lue is just by watching him in interviews and watching him on the sideline.
No, he's a great guy, man, and certainly paid his dues under Doc, and has about as great of a basketball IQ as a coach has in this league. I think people are starting to see that, learn that about him, like just some of the counter moves he makes, and that's the thing. Like we mentioned the Clippers earlier, if they're healthy with him coaching that team, hey man, there could be a parade on Chick Hearn Boulevard, right?
Well, you just look at the West, and all these teams have flaws. I mean, the Pelicans are young and they haven't proven it, and they're injury fragile. The Grizzlies are at times out of control, still haven't proven that they can keep themselves in control. By the way, they're on a hot streak right now, still without Des Bane. They're on a hot streak. Denver is dangerous. but you know,
They're
they
just
have
missing
their,
something, aren't they?
well, they don't
Well,
always
Porter
play.
Jr.'s been out.
No, I mean just something like almost think they need more of a veteran presence. I mean, I love Uncle Jeff, and all that, but there's just something about them that I just do you believe they can win a championship? I
Well,
think they're talented.
You know what it is?
They're just,
You know what
they're
it might
just
be,
missing
Spears?
something.
I think it's the same thing the Clippers might be lacking. And it's like you want some like fiery leader to be on that team, right? Like
Yeah.
the Clippers have a bunch of guys, they have a lot of veterans who are experienced, but they don't really have a guy who like is going to, I guess they had him Pat Bev years ago, but he really wasn't. Pat Bev
He
does
wasn't
do a
good
lot of
enough.
shouting, but he's not
Yeah.
like the leader, right? He wasn't
Yeah.
good enough to be like, they need like a guy who's going to be like a leader when times are tough to
Yeah.
kind of say stuff to them.
Well,
And
Kawhi does that with his Kawhi does that with his play, but he
right. But like Ty Lue basically is their leader. And when you look at the Denver Nuggets, like Jokic is such a nice guy. He leads by example, but he's not going to be a vocal guy that much.
Yeah.
It's really kind of Michael Malone, right? Jamal
Yeah.
Murray's not really a vocal guy. Porter Jr. certainly isn't. So like, they kind of need, I think they're lacking that type of guy too.
Like
well, they don't defend.
Some vet.
They don't.
Yeah.
They have an absolute killer offense, and they do not have a reliable defense. And I just don't think a team that's in the bottom 5 in defense.
Yeah.
It's what they are right now. I don't know where they'll be in the spring. I can't see them winning 3 playoff rounds. I mean,
Yeah.
they can prove me wrong. I mean, one of the things coaches, I always default to defense whenever I talk about teams. And like more and more like coaches or agents or even players, like defenses doesn't matter as much in this league. And I'm like, I don't believe that. Like last year, guess who the top 2 defensive teams in the playoffs were? The Celtics and the Warriors. So,
Yeah.
But you look at Phoenix, they're, riddled with injuries and they have depth issues. The Warriors, their second unit is a question and they've been terrible on the road. Portland, I don't know whether you believe in them, but I'm just talking about the teams around.
I mean, Minnesota
Minnesota is not in the conversation right now. I mean,
but they're like still like you got to respect them. Like they got some talent there, right? They're the box of chocolate team. I don't, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's a problem if you're trying to win.
But
once Cat gets back, it's like then here we go again. Can Gobert and Cat, learn to play together again,
But I'll say this about the Nuggets as a franchise, the team that I cut my teeth with in the beginning. I don't know that there's been a more successful franchise that's never made it to the NBA Finals. Like they go to the playoffs every year, and well, ever since Melo showed up, right? Let's give Melo his due. Like if you think about like the Dan Issel years and the English years, and then some of the things Mutombo did with them, and then since Melo arrived, and then Joker, like they're always good, but they just never can get over that hump, man.
Well,
2 Western
the question
Conference
is,
Finals appearances, over the last 20 years. Then if you go back to like Issel and Alex and Fat could never get over the Lakers, like they just never can get over the hump.
Well, the question really is, and I think this is a question for Embiid too, is can Jokic and Embiid flat out win you a high stakes playoff series?
I like Embiid's chances of that better.
Well, we'll see.
He lives up to he can live up to the moment.
I gotta say though, Jokic was balling in that first round against Golden State, especially at the end. But that was without Porter Jr., without Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
But he gave the Warriors a handful at the end there, as much as he could. But yeah, I mean, you still wonder at the end of the games if you throw the ball into Jokic, is he going to be able to get you that basket? He can find someone.
Murray's proven that he could hit big shots
in the bubble. Yeah, for sure. And he's starting to look
a big one in Portland the other day.
Yeah.
Like, but they're just like the defense and just that leader. Like I feel like they need to still like tweak that. I mean, obviously they got a star and some co-stars, but the rest of the roster needs to be tweaked a little bit.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.